Hey guys, welcome to Money Chats. I'm pretty pumped up today. You guys know me. If you know me, then you know that I'm all about multiple streams of income. I'm all about hustles. Also, a piece of that is personal finance. Like personal finance is a huge part of that. So today on Money Chats, got a guy named Brady who has a personal finance app, which is actually a pretty solid one. I'm excited to have him on, and we're going to talk about that shortly. But for now, sit back, hang out, and then we'll get going. That doesn't pump you up early in the morning. I don't know what will. All right, I got Brady. Brady, morning, man. How you doing?
What's up, Brooks? Good to see you.
Good to see you. So it's 10 a.m. my time. It is bright and early. What, 8 a.m. for you?
It's 8 a.m. here, and I've been up for about 4 hours.
A whole okay. Okay. First topic. Let's talk. Let's talk about that. Wait. You're in Oregon, right? Is it
That's
Portland?
right, Portland, Oregon. Yep.
Which is in my top 5 visit places that I have not been, that I will be going to at some point in the near future.
It's awesome here. You should absolutely come and look me up when you get here.
I love it. I love it, man. All right, so you and I met at something called FinCon. We don't have to tell people exactly what FinCon is, but it's like a pretty cool personal finance, podcasters, YouTubers, people just kind of collecting, right? Like for that are all in that mode and like get each other.
That's right. It's a bunch of people who are all very passionate about finance, personal finance, basically, and they help connect people to the personal finance topics and that they care a lot about. And it's just great to be in the company of so many people who are, have a common mission as you do, and a lot of people doing a lot of really cool stuff.
Totally. Yeah, with you, man. I enjoyed it. So yeah, we had a cool conversation there, and then we connected afterwards, which is awesome. Which and here we are now. You broke your microphone out, and now we're doing this interview. So that's super cool. All right, wait. Why'd you wake up 4 hours ago? I feel like when we spoke before, I feel like that's a regular thing for you. Is that
It's a fairly regular thing. I'm an early riser. I think I've always been a bit of a morning person. And that's when I'm most productive. It's my mind's working. I've got tons of energy. But then the pandemic came along, and I was a corporate person at the time, and my morning just started earlier and earlier. Because of the pandemic, it just shifted everything for me, and I haven't been able to let go of it since. So I'm still an early riser, but the beauty of it is that it's my most productive hours. It's great.
No, so that's interesting. I'm with you. I've heard people operate in different ways, and because you are not tied to a specific calendar, you can. I guess I could say you can work on what works best for you and the way that you're productive or whatever. Are you one of those? Are you like a freak of nature where you also stay up late, or do you go to bed at like an early hour?
No, you'll find me passed out on the couch around 8:30, 9 o'clock at night.
My kind of guy.
So I'm taking a nap right before I go to bed. That kind of
style. Yeah. You get woken up. Hey, it's time to go to bed now.
That's right.
Got to go to bed. Right. Okay. Yeah, you're kind of like me then. Yeah, probably about between 9 and 10, man. I am I'm crashing. So yeah, I don't wake up quite as early as you, but I do enjoy getting up earlier. With it being quiet, and so I'm married and we have a son, and so they're not up yet, and it is one, more peaceful, but two, you can be more productive without people around you, right?
That's right. When I had kids that were growing up and little, it was about the only time I had was early in the morning. So I hear you on that.
Totally, man. All right, so I want to know. All right, so obviously we're going to talk about a personal finance app, how you got into that. But let's hold that for a second, because I think it's kind of interesting. I want to know about you, like your story is interesting, and for people watching this or listening to this or whatever later, it's not even as much about like the story. Like they don't know you. Maybe they don't care about the company you work for. I don't know. But like what I think is cool is that everyone has that thread of commonality. Like you and I actually have this in common, just because we think the same. Now I don't come from a corporate background, but when I was reading some of your info about like your why and the company and you, I'm like, man, that's the common thread that like every hustler or like every entrepreneur like has in common. And it's like, so people can relate to that. And that's why I want to know, like, okay, so you were working for a company, right?
Yeah, that's right. I had a 20-year career in the corporate world in industry serving the semiconductor industry. So we were a big B2B company making software that helped people design the chips that go into your phones.
Cool.
And I spent 20 years in that industry in the corporate world.
Cool. So did you what is your overall take of that? Like I don't have that from a personal like experience or whatever. So like what's your take from the corporate world 20 years? Like did you have a good experience? Did you like it? Were there pros, cons? Like what?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, one of the aspects of my journey, my personal journey, was making sure that in my transition that I was moving towards something that I wanted, not
Mhm.
moving away from something I didn't. And so my experience,
Hmm.
in my career, my 20-year career in the industry was absolutely rewarding. I was 100% committed to making that successful. I climbed the corporate ladder, got to a point where I was running a business unit that had a great team of people, a couple hundred people contributing to the mission. Tens of millions of dollars of budget that I was responsible for,
Wow.
and it was an incredibly rewarding experience. And also one that is from a financial standpoint offers security at times, not 100% of the time.
Sure.
But it was an enabler for me to finally make the decision that I've made.
Yeah, no, yeah, you're totally right. It's like it's funny how you mentioned financial secure for the most part, but like obviously never guaranteed, right? Like so my wife and I talk about that all the time. Like over our, I don't know, maybe last 15 years of being self-employed, we've done a bunch of different stuff and kind of pivoted and had different projects always, and sometimes smooth, sometimes stressful.
Mm.
In the stressful times, we ask the question like, should we just get a job, like a corporate, or at least one of us at least have like a steady, like a corporate job. And then we kind of decide, like, we're like, well, there's no guarantees there either, like, yes, it's a steady paycheck, but like while you have a position, it's a steady paycheck, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and
yeah.
I'd add, Brooks, I think there are two times in life where it makes a lot of sense to kind of go out on your own and be entrepreneurial. And one is very early, right? And you get going right away, and you got all that energy, and you strike out, and you change the world, right? That's kind of that dream. And then the other time to do it is maybe more around the time that I did it, which is after I got rid of some of the responsibilities in my life, or they left me, I guess, as my kids went away to college. My wife and I became empty nesters, and it was the perfect time to revisit something that kind of I always had a passion for, and was always under the surface. But it was kind of those 2 points in life are great times. It sounds like you chose it early. I chose it later.
I'm totally so I feel like it's kind of funny. I feel like I almost fall into a third camp that's like, maybe if people go this way, okay, great, but maybe not necessarily recommended. I would definitely recommend probably one of your two camps that you just mentioned. I feel like I'm in this third camp that is like, I okay, I'll give you the 60-second version of me. I graduated college, got offered a job, didn't take it. Instead, went overseas to New Zealand, lived there for 18 months. Was like,
Nice.
I worked slash just lived. Came back, didn't have any money, wanted to get started in real estate. Connected with a guy, talked him into starting a company with me. We flipped a bunch of houses. But from that point, I was not like, cool, now I'm a full-time real estate investor. I shifted focus, like didn't always have the interest in that. So that I consider that like hustle number one. And then it's like I added a hustle, and then I added another hustle. And then now, like 15 years later, Brady, like I'm the weirdest weirdo ever because I literally feel like I'm a full-time side hustler. like I have full-time income on like just a bunch of different projects that we do. And I I don't know if I recommend that path to people. You know what I mean? Like if someone were to ask me, but I will say like it it's my path and I'm on it right now and I don't know, I'm having a good time.
And I don't think
I
there's
don't
any
know.
right or wrong answer
I
there.
don't
I
know.
think everybody's got their own journey, and
Yeah.
I think, but I think what's really interesting about the path that you've taken is that and I think that difference kind of between that entrepreneurial approach or the hustler approach versus that corporate approach. Going into being in the corporate world, you are a specialist in something, right? And you
Yeah.
are a cog in a machine, and you serve a function and everybody else serves the other functions, and you maybe don't have the same awareness as somebody who's out there trying to make things work. You have to have a handle on all aspects of what makes a business work. When you take on that hustle and you take on the responsibility of the whole thing, it gives you a completely different perspective. So I
Yeah.
had to work my way from that specialist mode into generalist mode. And I think when you start out where you started out and the path that you went on, it gives you this tremendous insight into how business operates.
Yeah, that's a good point. I probably take a lot of that actually for granted if I were to think about it and go deeper into that, which we won't, but like you're right, I probably take a lot of that for granted, that experience that I have of
Yeah.
having to have so many hats and so much experience in different things. Like, I don't know, like doing this, producing this show, for example. It's almost like I guess if I talk to a lot of people are like, oh, like how do you do that? I don't really understand. I'm like, I don't know, man. It's just really easy. I just have these tools, but I've also built a dozen websites the first time out of necessity, and then just more because I had more projects, and then doing some for other people. So it's like everything just kind of builds upon itself, and you create all this different experience. So yeah, I totally agree with you. All right, what? All right, so why make the decision to move from corporate to this crazy thing that we call entrepreneurship? Like, why, how, like, how does that work for you? How'd that
Yeah.
transition?
Yeah. Yeah. I got to imagine everybody experiences. Yeah, I don't know how many people have done what I did. And I imagine everybody's path there is a little bit different. But for me, it was that, I always had a bit of an itch to scratch in terms of entrepreneurship.
Okay.
And I think the biggest component of that is I have always enjoyed creating valuable things. Originating these ideas and seeing a problem, knowing that I could help solve that problem through whatever channel it was. And for me, it was software. And so I was always building software things to go
Gotcha.
solve problems. And, so that was kind of the genesis of it. But I think the other things that really appealed to me about striking out on my own was um, being able to run a business from a very pure perspective. That as a private owner of a company, you get to operate with a long-term vision in mind and not have to satisfy short-term shareholder needs. Right. So if you're
Gotcha.
part of a public company, the mission is you've got this balance between serving that long-term need, but also meeting the demands of some short-term aspects, and you end up making trade-offs, and they're valid trade-offs. But having that freedom to pursue those long-term aspects solely, is something that was very appealing to me. Um, and then the third thing is really just the my own personal life and getting onto a trajectory where I spent more time insourcing my personal life and outsourcing my work rather than the other way around. Right. As as a corporate citizen, as I grew in my responsibilities, I took on more and more responsibility at work and tended to outsource more and more of my personal life. And I wanted to change that trajectory, right? Where I spent more time with my personal life and spent more time outsourcing my work.
Huh, that's interesting. Is that something you had seen before, or that phrase, or is Is that pinned by you, man? Is that invented by you, or is that something maybe like you read a book or something, or what?
I haven't seen it before. If I ever write a book, I'll certainly use it. But
You totally should. You totally should. Yeah.
but it's certainly how I felt. Right?
Okay.
Is
Okay.
this need to get more connected again with my personal life.
Okay. And when you decided to do that, was this app the idea, or were you like not sure what you were going to do, or did you do some other things and then come to this idea? Like, how did that kind of play out?
Yeah, I think like any entrepreneur, I had my series of failures, and a lot of those failures were the result of primarily pursuing this more from a perspective of a hobby.
Yeah. Yeah.
And through these different pursuits, I did discover that I had kind of a common thread through some of my past failures, and it was really always around trying to help somebody accomplish a goal, and it was oftentimes a goal that I had. As a good example, before creating the personal finance app that we'll talk about, I created a running app. I'm a runner.
Okay.
And I was on a mission to do a marathon like a lot of runners. And of course I had to go build an app to support myself through that process, track my progress. I'm an analytical kind of guy. And so I wanted charts and all of these things. And so I went and built that, right, and put it out there. Other people used it, but it wasn't ever something that was going to be a business, right? And so I definitely had a lot of hobbies in that entrepreneurial world. And I think we just got lucky that, one of our hobbies kind of grew and grew and grew, and became something that was like, at some point you had to give serious consideration to turning it into a business. And so that's kind of what led to that.
Is that so? Okay. Okay. So, so many thoughts come from that for me. So, okay. One, failing is a part of entrepreneurship and is just so clear. And so I don't know why, but it's not like glorified. Like, it's not like, yeah, but which I totally get it. Like, who wants to like glorify like, oh yeah, this bombed or whatever. But it is like the epitome of being an entrepreneur, that like the bulk of what you do, whether decisions made within a business or a business idea at all, is like going to fail, like the majority. And that's the way it works. I actually produced a local event in my city, Brady. It was called Failing Forward Entrepreneur Screw Ups or something like that. We had entrepreneurs come in and talk about like, hey, cool, here's where I am, and like and we were talking about like failing forward and mistakes that they've made and all that kind of stuff. For me, I don't know. It's something I kind of like talking about, because I think a lot of people are scared to try stuff or scared to do stuff because of like that failing aspect. And I'm just like, man, that's like, welcome to the game of business. Like, you're just gonna have to, stuff's not gonna work out. But something you said, it kind of makes me wonder. I'm asking this. Do you think those previous apps that you built, did they give you knowledge and resources and information to build upon going into potentially Debt Payoff Planner, which is the personal finance app?
Yeah, without a doubt. I love, by the way, the entrepreneur screw ups or
Entrepreneur
whatever
screw
you
ups.
said.
Yeah.
Love it. Like, that's fantastic. And the idea of failing forward, absolutely. And, until you experience it, you can read all about it. But really, until you experience that first learning that you get, and that's really what it is. It's not failing, it's learning. You go out and try something and you learn. Oh yeah.
It hurts your heart. It hurts your soul. And, you tell people that, oh, how's that going? You're like, yeah, and you have to kind of have a story. Yeah, it didn't work out or whatever. Yeah. It's a brick wall. Like, I'm not hiding the fact that it's a brick wall and it sucks to like when something fails, but it's just like, I'm trying to normalize the idea to people that like, hey, it's a part of the game, so.
That's right. And I think actually building that into your strategy, that this may not be the thing that works. And so really going into the process, not necessarily with the notion of I'm going to succeed. You want to go into the process thinking you're going to succeed, but
of course,
going into the process and designing it such that if you fail, you are going to learn something. the worst thing that could happen is you fail and you didn't learn anything. And there is a trick to setting up, your effort to make sure that there's a learning involved in the event that it doesn't work out the way you anticipated.
Exactly. Yeah, totally agree with you there. All right, so wait, I'm gonna put this up on the screen. I've got the debtpayofpplanner.com. So hold on, let me. Just the way that I have the size. But anyway, so switch and tell me about this. Like, okay, how did this? So this was the idea. How did this get going? What struck it? You have a business partner. How does that work? Like, okay, what's the flow into this app?
Sure. Yeah. So I guess it starts that, this really, it's been a long journey. And like I said, most of the stuff that I did started out as hobbies, and this was no different. It started out kind of as a hobby.
Right.
My brother-in-law is in the business of serving people and helping people who are in debt. And through conversations at Thanksgiving,
Okay.
I learned about some of the problems that folks were faced with. And, so originally the genesis of this was, geez, I think, if people had a plan, they could save a bunch of money. Right. And who doesn't want to save money? So again, it just kind of that coming from the exact same perspective, I saw a problem. I thought I could help solve it. And boy, was I wrong. So the genesis of it started out with the idea that people didn't have an optimal plan, right? And if you had an optimal plan over the course of paying off all your debt, you could save $1,000, $2,000, something like that. And while that's true, it turns out that's not it's not the biggest problem people have. But what it led to was discovering what the real problem was. And so, the genesis of this app was a simple calculator, put your stuff in and get a plan that tells you how much money you're going to save. Right. And I think, and it was a hobby. So we spent nights and weekends playing around with this. We just kind of kept listening to people's feedback and understanding more about them and more about their situation, and putting some effort into it when we could. And it just kept growing on us.
Nice.
And so led to what we're focused on now, which is actually quite a bit different than where it started 6 years ago. And led to the point where we really feel like we're almost launching this, within the last year, and relaunching again as we come up on the next year, to really go tackle the real challenge that people have and how it's really helping people.
Interesting. So all that come from user feedback, and that's why you feel like that within this last year, is just based on all the adjustments and changes from users.
That's right. So I would say that there was one thing that we did well in that process, and somewhat intentionally, somewhat fortuitously, was that there's a book by Dan and Heath Brooks, not Brooks, sorry.
I was like, what? Cool.
Chip and Dan Heath. It's called Switch. You may have heard of it.
I think so.
And it's how to get things done when things are hard to do, or something along those lines. And these are two great authors. I recommend all of their books to everybody I ever talk to. But in this book, they talk about bright spots. And so this is, rather than trying to fix the problems you have, go chase the things that are working for you. Right. And so we focused on the feedback that was positive, and understand, and then being able to ask that question, why. So somebody would say, this is amazing. Great. That's nice to hear. And we feel great about that. But why is it amazing? Right. So you can get two kinds of feedback. This sucks, or this is amazing.
Yeah.
And you can go focus on, well, why does it suck? You're missing the point. You didn't understand me. You're using it wrong. Or you can go focus on the ones that say, this is amazing, and say, why is it amazing? How did I misunderstand what you got out of it? Right. And go ask those questions. Why is this amazing for you? And that's what led to much deeper insights than focusing on why does this not serve your purpose. Go focus on the people who say it is serving their purpose.
That's huge, man, for anyone growing any type of business whatsoever, right? Whether it's app or some other business to, you could get that feedback and just say, oh, okay, thank you. But you didn't. You went deeper. And the cool thing too, I would say, is that the person that takes a moment to comment or to do whatever to really praise something is probably a user or a customer who's willing to like talk with you further and give you that additional information, which sounds like that's what you found with those people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. That's smart.
It's just to get out there, the fact that anybody who leaves a comment on anything, thank you, right?
Yeah.
There are so many people who won't voice their opinion, good or bad, right? And so the folks who actually do, and it's a minority of people who will leave feedback for you. But if you can get 2% of the people giving you feedback, it's amazing. And I have just tremendous amount of gratitude for anybody who wants to give us feedback. It's amazing.
So what did you find from those people? Like, so from the people that you listened to, what were some common threads that you were hearing that you guys have either made adjustments or like doubled down on or whatever? Like, what was that stuff you were hearing?
Yeah. So again, kind of take that. Remember that, we set out to save people money, and my background is as an engineer. My co-founder is also an engineer background. And so optimization, problem solving, that's where our mind starts. And the idea was to save people money. What the feedback we got when we asked why did they like it, we got comments back that were much more emotional oriented, right?
Interesting.
This app gave me hope. This app gave me motivation. And that was a light bulb moment for us. That how is it that we're giving people hope? It's a calculator, right? How are we giving people motivation? It's a tool to keep on track, remind you what you need to pay, and check off when you paid it, so you stay organized or whatever.
Wow.
How is that leading to motivation?
So how was it? How was it hope?
Yeah, it's remarkable. So what we've learned over time is that people that have debt, and I think it's important to make the distinction between people who have debt versus people who are in debt.
Okay.
There's some implication of maybe a net worth aspect to that, or whether you can afford your debt or not, or whatever. So it's much more about people who have debt, right? So if you have debt, it hangs on you, right? I don't know too many people who haven't experienced that some point in their life. There's some amount of debt that they have that they need to get out from under. And the magnitude of that varies a lot, but I think we've all been there and we know what that feels like. And it can feel pretty depressing. And what we learned most people do in that circumstance is they think, okay, I'm going to beat this with willpower, right? I'm going to, I've been paying my minimum payments, but that I'm still in debt. I've been paying my minimum payments for years and I'm still in debt. So I must just need to pay more. And so they start paying more. They start doubling. They start sacrificing things in their life so that they can apply more to it. But they still are in debt, right? They're still in debt. So they have no idea when they're going to be done.
Right.
And so they get very depressed about that. They stop, they go back, they end up feeling like this is endless and hopeless. I'll never get out of debt. So where they usually find us is they're trying to get organized. And what they end up discovering is that when they put all of their debts in and they get a plan back, and they also get this plan tells them exactly when they're going to be out of debt if they follow it, just making the payments that they can afford to make, they end up walking away with a step-by-step plan and an end date, which gives them a tremendous amount of hope. All of a sudden, I'm not just walking aimlessly or worse, running aimlessly on my journey. I am headed in a particular direction. I know when I'm going to get there. I know what it's going to take. And that gives them a tremendous amount of hope and determination. we recently did a survey of our users asking, putting a statement out and then asking if they would agree with it or not. And we said something along the lines of, having a known payoff date gives me a tremendous amount and a life-changing amount of hope and determination in my journey.
Interesting.
96% or something agreed with that statement.
Interesting.
So, here we were trying to create a plan that saved people money. And what they got out of it was that hope and determination just from having a date, knowing when they were going to be out of debt, right? And knowing the step-by-step process to get there. And that's oftentimes just making the payments that they can already afford to make and are comfortable making. And they're often very surprised at what that date is.
That's interesting. So it's almost like this is a play on human psychology, really, right? So it's almost like I'm in debt. Oh, I'm doubling down. This isn't working. It's not really going anywhere. But then just laying out a game plan and realizing, oh, if I just do what I've been doing for 7 years or 10, whatever, but like that gets paid off and I can live the same life I'm living now. And that gets paid off. And then I'm, I guess, debt free. So I guess what you're saying is that you figured out with your users that by adding that layer of like them understanding when and how or whatever, that kind of changed their whole mindset in how it works. Is that accurate? What I'm saying?
That's exactly right. And
Okay.
it's a transformation for them getting that date. Now, what did we do about that? Right. Because we put a lot of focus on trying to put in front of them, make very obvious the savings they were going to get. Right. And what they came back and told us is, hey, I got hope out of having that end date. So what did we do? We put the end date right at the top of the app. Right. That's the thing front and center, because it's not only that one-time transformation, they get to keep opening it when they feel a little bit down or whatever, and keep realizing, nope, that's my date. I know what it is. And I see the light at the end of the tunnel, and it stays ever present. So that shift is saying, told us we need to put much more emphasis on that transformation that they're going through. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's cool. So crazy. You just gave me an idea. What if you guys did something on people's end dates for them? I don't know what that is. It doesn't have to be crazy or expensive, but something that could be like marketing for you guys, where you're like celebrating someone's end date when they reach it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, like maybe you do that, but if you don't, that could be so cool. Like I would be pumped if I was your user and I had an end date, and then at the end of that, I don't know, you sent me something, we did some celebratory thing. Like I'd be over the moon. That'd be cool.
I think it's a fantastic idea. And so two things on that. One, you're absolutely right. And one of the wonderful things about making the transition that I have from my corporate world to making this my full-time job is that we can focus on exactly doing those kinds of things. What an amazing thing, not only for the individual who made it to the end and achieved their goal, but what an amazing thing for us if they invite us into that process and get to celebrate with them. Right. It's that reward for us as well, seeing the success that people have. Now, I will say, I just add to that aside from just the end, it's so critical. The other thing that we learned is that it's so critical to be able to stay motivated the entire time throughout that journey. Right. So you get the starting point and you got the ending point, right?
Yeah.
How do you stay motivated that entire time? Because it can be a long journey, right?
You tell me, man. How do we do that? Is there anything special for that, or what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, the other thing we learned about people, and it's absolutely another psychological aspect, is that the most motivating thing that somebody can do when they're trying to achieve any goal is to be able to track their progress.
Gotcha.
If you see that you are making progress toward your goal, you stay much more motivated to continue striving for it.
Yeah.
And again, it's kind of this idea of you're no longer walking aimlessly, right? So you know where you're going to, and you know how far you've come. Being able to look at that and say, look at all this progress I'm making. So it's about that progress and continuing to keep that progress front of mind. And so we look at this not only as a celebration at the end. And so we do little things and little pop-ups when somebody actually pays off one of their debts, right? And people tend to have 5 or 10 or whatever. every time they pay off one, we throw up a pop-up. It's kind of cheesy balloons, but it's
Hey,
something to celebrate the milestone.
balloons are fun, man. Yeah, celebrating milestones. That's smart.
But if you can celebrate every single payment that you make, right?
Hmm.
That's even more motivating. And that's where when they enter their payments, they get to see a progress indicator change. They get to continue to see, the progress they're making, not only overall, but on a very specific debt. And they find that tremendously motivating. And so that's great. And that's, again, another one that we had no understanding of. We were putting that feature in there so that they could track it and stay organized and remember when they were going to have to make their next payment. And they were using it as a motivation tool. And so understanding that, again, has changed our focus to be much more heavily focused on being a tool that motivates somebody to actually be able to get through their journey.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's good. And so, people listening to this or watching this or whatever, they may be, interested in personal finance, right? And want to check out your app, but they're also probably going to be also, hustlers and entrepreneurs themselves, right? They may be thinking, hey, I'm trying to start my own fitness app or whatever. But the goal setting aspect that you just mentioned, or within the app, that tracking that progress, that's very similar to any goal setting in real life, right? It's like it's setting a goal that has milestones that are feasible, that you can like then reward yourself along the way. It's
That's
not
right.
setting a goal that's lofty and isn't clear and has a clear path to get there. I'm sure you're familiar with some of that too, but like, yeah, it's actually really difficult to set goals appropriately. And it's funny because you actually hear so much content about that. Like, you would think, that's a goal. You just set a goal and you go. But now that I'm thinking about it, like, wait, why is this talked about so much? Well, because it's probably like it's actually not simple. If you set something in a very general sense, hey, I want to lose 20 pounds, or I want to lose weight by the end of the year or whatever. Like, that's just not you're it's just not going to work, right? If you don't get more specific and set milestones and set a road path, to get there. So that I think that's cool for what you said about the users in the personal finance app. But that can translate, if for anyone listening, like, that's so important with anything that you're doing and trying to accomplish in business, life, whatever. So, and on
Yeah.
that note of talking to potentially the entrepreneurs, let's kind of tell me about the process of creating this app. So this was something that you guys already kind of had the knowledge for. If someone is wanting to make an app for a business of some sort, um, is how difficult is it? I know there's companies, I guess, that can kind of help you formulate your app or whatever. And we don't have to get into like all the nitty-gritty of it, but just kind
Yeah.
of what's kind of your overview or any feedback or advice for people on that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, the remarkable thing is that in this day and age, there are so many tools and services available to
Yeah.
help somebody create. And
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it whether that's software or content or entertainment or whatever, it is a remarkable time that we live in, having access to tools and this spring of individuals who can go out and have their own businesses and directly deliver value to other people, is because of these tools and services that are widely available. And so we are in a period of time where somebody getting into building apps, for example, have this, are standing on the shoulders of giants, if you will, like no other time before. So
Gotcha.
um, it is the best time we've ever had to be able to do something like that, but it's also still a very technically challenging set of challenges you have to get over. And I think where some of these services and capabilities that they're amazing at helping you get started quickly and validating an idea rapidly. And there's nothing better than doing that, to make the smallest investment possible to find out if your idea has any legs, and to
Yep.
be able to get those insights that we've been talking about, get some feedback, right? But the problem is that when you use those tools and services, you are essentially going to look very generic. You're not going to have your own personality. You're not going to have your own brand. It's not going to serve the purpose as effectively or as efficiently as it could. And
Yeah.
so going from kind of an initial prototype into something, a full-blown product, is going to be much more challenging. And then when you try to get to that at scale, where you're serving, we've got hundreds of thousands of people coming through the app in a year. That's a level of scale that is different than what you can muster through some of the tools and services that are available. So as you start to scale, that's where some of that technical know-how becomes much more important. But certainly getting started, I think people have a good opportunity, to get started fairly well.
Got you. No, that's good advice. So tools, so for me to kind of recap in my language or whatever, so maybe some of those online tool services could be maybe something to help you get your feet wet to like maybe test your idea, get it going. And then if you see it has legs, then maybe allocate some serious resources into launching something more serious. And then obviously, like what you mentioned, hundreds of thousands of people using an app. I mean, I imagine that's kind of like like a website. You got to have like bandwidth, and I'm sure there's all that with like hosting the app itself, which is probably that's a whole separate topic. But like as you grow users, I'm sure that's like an important piece of what you're talking about, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. And so that, it typically breaks into two components. One is a back end. Everything has to be cloud and accessible from multiple devices and things like
Right.
that. And so, you've got this whole back end that needs security and scalability. And that, you've got things like all these cloud providers like Amazon or Microsoft or Google, where you can build your stuff and scale it. So we can achieve scale like we've never been able to achieve before. But there's still a lot of code that is custom to your specific situation. So you've got that, and then you've got the front end where, again, customization of that to its purpose and making it custom fit or purpose fit for it is something where, again, you can go from kind of a generic set of capabilities that you can pick up on the internet and turn that into, purpose fit is a bit more work.
Got you. I got you, but I don't have you. Apps are over my head, but that's okay. I'll leave it with that. For anyone that listens that understands exactly what you're talking about, they'll get the value out of that. So that's good.
That's right.
All right. So, any final thing that you want to say about the app or anything like that specifically that maybe we didn't touch on?
Yeah. Well, I thought it was worth kind of touching on the final aspect of where we help people and what actually led to a lot of the conversations that you and I have had is that, one of the things that when people finally get a handle on kind of the challenge of their debt, they're looking for ways to accelerate that. And I think whether you have debt or not, the value that you're providing to people to help them get started in boosting their income, finding these multiple streams of income, finding other sources of income, making that additive, scaling that up over time. That's something that is very important for somebody who, has been able to get on their journey, stay motivated. They're looking for those next set of boosters. And really, I think the opportunity that you and I have talked about is, where we can collaborate on those things to help our audience, introduce them to the things that you're doing. And, I think that's just such an important aspect in you're growing a business, is to think about those partnerships, right? Where are those partnerships where you can create win-win opportunities? And it's really a win-win-win opportunity. There's got to be value being created for your customers and value being created for each of the partners. And so, being able to do something like this, it's not only fun to be able to chat with you for an hour, but I think it's also something that people should consider, that there are a lot more partners than there are competitors out there. and thinking about it creatively and thinking about it from the perspective of the people you're trying to serve, to build those partnerships, I think is a really important aspect of continuing to scale a business.
That's a really good point. So for people listening, are kind of like, okay, partnerships, what are you talking about? So when Brady and I met at FinCon, we were just sitting at a table. They told me what they did. Oh, we have a personal finance app. I was like, oh, that's really cool. I just asked a lot of questions. So I have a personal brand blog, brooksconquo.com. I talk about a lot of different stuff: personal finance, hustles, making money, entrepreneurship, marketing. And we're like, oh, wait, hey, maybe there's some way we can collaborate. We had no idea. We're literally just brainstorming at a table. We're like, well, hey, maybe I can help get some of my content to your audience. And I'm like, hey, maybe I can help expose you to my audience. So yeah, I think people, like a lot of people probably would have said at the table together and just said, hey, what do you do? Oh, that's nice. It was nice to meet you. I hope you have a great day or something. And but I don't know. And like my goal wasn't how can I do business with these guys, but at the same time, like you always just have to be open to opportunity, and like, hey, is there a way I can help these guys, or is there a way that we could somehow work together? And I think being creative and open like that can really benefit people if they choose to look for opportunity. Right. So no, not next month. In like 2 weeks, I'm actually giving a talk. I've never really done talks, but I'm doing a breakout session at a conference like FinCon. It's called EntreCon in Pensacola, Florida.
Yeah.
And it's actually on multiple streams of income. And part of that talk is actually about seeing opportunity in front of you and like being aware of it and being just having your eyes open to it. And actually, look, I have these pictures right here. I think I told you about this. This is just from a previous interview, so I'll just like show it to you. So me and my wife were walking. Did I tell you about this? We were walking and we found we're like 2 houses away from where we live. We see these mirrors. I'm like, hey, I gotta check these out. I just like happened to look. I was like, babe, those mirrors are brand new. I think I can sell these for like $50, like probably easy. And she's like, yes. She's like, yeah, I could sell those easy. I was like, all right, right now we're carrying these mirrors. I made her take a picture of me. I was like, we're carrying these mirrors. We're taking them home. So she wiped them, took a picture. Boom, there she goes. Brady, the next day, man, she sold them for $100, $50 a piece. We literally had 30 minutes of work in these mirrors. So in essence, it's $200 an hour if you want to like rate it out. And I could have just as easily just gone on a walk and just walked by the mirrors. I don't want to deal with them. I don't want to bother myself. I've had a long day. And I'll be honest, I was lucky that I was just kind of in the right frame of mind at that moment to say, you know what? I want to showcase this example. Let's see, I want to track this and let's see how this works out. And honestly, because I was in that frame of mind, I was willing to grab them and get pictures and stuff. And so, yeah, it was being open to the opportunity, and people only have, for personal finance or for business or for life or whatever, like we only have 2 options when it comes to, saving money or making money. Like you can either, save and reduce your expenses, or you can figure out how to make more money, right? I mean, that's literally the only 2 options. Or the third option, I guess, would be a combination of the 2, right? You can lower your expenses, raise your revenue. And yeah, if you want to accelerate, your debt payoff and you have a, corporate job making X dollars and you know what that is, figure out how to make an additional $1,000 in a month, apply all that towards your debt, So that's, yes, I do get a little heated and excited, Brady. Sorry, man, about making the extra cash, right?
That's awesome. And I love the hustle. I love the idea. And I love the fact that it's so accessible, right? Anybody can look for those opportunities and find them. I think what, would give people the energy to pursue that is having a goal, right? And so whatever your goal is, and if your goal is to find that extra amount of money so you can do your payoff, or you want to take that vacation that you're saving up for, whatever your objective is, having that front and center is just such a key part to having the motivation to go ahead and pick them up, do what you did to get them online and make that money. And so that's a crucial one. I did want to add one thing to what you said though, which is you kind of got these two things, right? Either you cut your expenses or you get more income. And those are absolutely your two choices for having more money. One thing that we have learned in addition to those other things I talked about was that probably one of the most important things before doing that is getting comfortable with your current situation, right? And for many people, their current situation is not comfortable, right? And you have no choice but to go after those things. But for a lot of people, their situation is maybe a bit more comfortable than they thought. And so I wanted to share one story that we got back from somebody that really kind of shows that need for having comfort, because it creates freedom for people. So there was a user who we asked for feedback at some point and tell us your stories. We want to hear them. And this user happened to have $45,000 of debt that they'd built up over a couple of years. It's very common, right? People build up their debt. And anyway, this person was incredibly sad and depressed. It was affecting their sleep, affecting their relationships with other people, and affecting their work. They hated their job because they thought their job wasn't giving them enough money to ever be able to pay back their debt, right? They went and got their plan. They got their payoff date and discovered that just doing what they were already doing, not going beyond, not having to sacrifice more, they were going to be out of debt much, much sooner than they ever thought was possible, right? So they immediately, all of that stress kind of melted away. They no longer hated their job because they realized that they actually did have enough money. They were able to see the progress that they were making. But the remarkable thing is this person had lived with a foot medical issue with their foot that required surgery for 3 years, because they thought they weren't in a comfortable financial position to go get that surgery. About halfway into their debt payoff, they still are in debt. They still have $20,000 of debt, but they're making progress. But the comfort that person got from understanding that they were on track freed them up to say they were going to go spend that money getting that surgery and getting rid of this foot problem. I mean, what an amazing thing, going from thinking you'll never ever be out of debt to feeling comfortable enough that you found extra money to go do something you've been putting off for 3 years. And so that make extra money, cut expenses, that really comes after maybe first getting comfortable and finding out where you really are in your situation, what you're trying to achieve. And whether that's because you're trying to become the next unicorn or bootstrapped entrepreneur, or you're just trying to get out of debt, making sure you have that goal and getting comfortable with your current situation, making that comfortable is really going to free you up to go after those opportunities and use that money the way you want to.
That's a good example. That's a good story. I guess while you were telling that, I was just thinking about how the mind is a powerful thing. And I mean, it's related, but it's unrelated, I guess. I mean, there's a reason why magic works. It shows you're like, what? Like whatever you just thought you saw, you didn't see, but you thought you saw it. And so like in the example you just gave, like just putting that date and track record and the understanding for that user, that customer to understand, oh, like set that person's brain on a different path to realize I'm okay and there's a track record and I'm actually fine where, like you said, where I am today. And there's a path forward. I think that's pretty amazing. It's almost, if you let your brain run free, it will. And it happens to tons of people. So, man, that's good. Okay, so if people want to connect with you, with the brand, what's the best way to do that? If someone wants to look you up and connect, or with the brand.
I mean, if you want to check out the app, it's debtpayofpplanner.com. Some additional information, some articles and links to how to download that. If you want to connect with me, hit me up on Twitter. I'm at Brady _Benware.
Okay.
Is my Twitter handle, and you can just message me, whatever. Don't look for Brady Benware, because there's a guy out there whose name is also Brady Benware. His handle is Butt Benware, and he's not quite the same person as I am.
He's a creeper. He's not as cool as you. Okay. Okay. Not the
He
same
may
Brady
be
Benware.
cooler.
He's so Brady_Benware.
That's right.
I got it. Cool, man. I'll put that link in like the description and stuff so people can just click it and find you. I'll make sure I'll look you up and find you and do all that. So Brady, man, I've enjoyed it. It's been great. If you want to stick around after, we can chat for a few seconds, like right after, but we'll wrap up now. I appreciate you hopping on with me, man. And I look forward to connecting with you soon.
Yeah. Really cool. Thanks, Brooke. Really appreciate the opportunity.
All right, man. All right. Take care. Talk soon.
See ya.
Hey guys, thanks for hanging out with us. We'd love for you to share it, maybe with a friend, review it, and don't hesitate to reach out and say hello. You can connect with us and see the resources that we talk about at destroytheboxwith.us. That's www.destroytheboxwith.us. See ya.